So let's see here. We will put on some music in the background as we are getting started here. So let's see here. Cool. All right. So thanks everyone for joining in. So right now I'm just gonna do a quick check to make sure that everything is working. If you can see me and if you can hear me, please feel free to just leave a comment saying so. I would really appreciate it. So, wonderful. So we are currently streaming on a few platforms at the same time. So we're streaming on LinkedIn. We are streaming on Twitter as well. So we'll double check that. We should actually be streaming on YouTube as well. Oh yeah, seems to be working. Fantastic. All right. So with that, again, if anybody can hear me, please feel free to just drop a comment in. So always really appreciate knowing that everything is working as it should. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us right now, all across the world, I'm sure. So my name is Elias, for those of you who don't know me. I am working with the Pactto team working on the growth side of things. And how we met was a really funny story. So I have been doing a lot of landing page roasts, as it's called, giving a lot of feedback to people, especially on Twitter, different founders, agency owners, and so on. And kind of ran into Demian, the founder of Pactto, on Twitter, and we started chatting, really vibed, and it felt like we had to figure out a way to work together at some point. And then suddenly this opportunity came up where I could join the team and work with them on their growth. And so for me, it really felt like a match made in heaven, because giving so much feedback to so many founders, I really got an inside view of just how far current tech has taken us and what's really left to do there. So for those of you who haven't tried out Pactto previously, you can almost think of it as a cross between Loom, Figma, and ChatGPT. And so the way it works is simply that you can start recording your screen just like you would in Loom. But what's really wonderful about it is that you have all these markup tools, and it's really here to help you give creative feedback that can be very specific and very helpful for the person getting it. And so rather than, for instance, just having this free form tool, you have markup tools that let you kind of circle stuff. You can draw rectangles, even draw arrows. So for instance, we have Demian, the fantastic founder of Pactto. And all these little things can really help you just to have more fun when you're giving feedback to founders, and just get better at it, honestly, to make sure that you're focusing in on the right things and helping guide the person that is going to use this feedback to improve their work. And so, but beyond that, once you have actually stopped recording, your work has only really begun. And so what I always kind of felt bad about was that when I had recorded a landing page feedback video, it might take me anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes, and really trying to be very thorough, doing my best. And then it's either time to post it as a tweet or send it to someone for them to use. And then I'm like, oh gosh, what should I write here? What was this? What was really the theme here? Because very often, I look through a website and I go back and forth and stuff. So it's actually harder than you might think when you kind of just wake up out of this process after 30 minutes and be like, what were the absolute main important talking points here that I want to get across? What were the action points? There could be 30 of them in a 30-minute video. And so what was just what kind of blew me away was seeing that with Pactto, once you have recorded something, they have built in AI tools to help you prompt your transcript. And this is just incredibly powerful. So for instance, when I have recorded a 30-minute video giving feedback to a founder, instead of just sending it to them and then kind of giving them a lot of work of having to kind of go through like, oh, what are the actual action points here? And then kind of like look back at which time was this happening and so on and so forth. I can simply prompt my transcript and say, create an action list out of everything I just said. Boop. And it just does it. So I can send that along. I can say, hey, you know, I'm going to tweet this. So write the tweet with the most important 3 things. And then it can do that. It can even write a blog post. We even tried that for Pactto to generate an entire blog post that was based on the learnings from this piece of feedback that I was giving for 30 minutes. And to me, this is just incredible because I feel like I've already put in my creativity, my expertise in this area while I'm actually giving the feedback. So to then like spend a lot of time on the post-production is not even close to as fun or high leverage because I've already said it. So to use AI in these particular ways have just been incredible for me. And so again, I highly recommend anybody who's watching to check out Pactto. You can try it for free. You can record videos up to 10 minutes for free, really get a good feel for it. And so with that, I would love to kind of just jump into today's session, and we're going to, of course, give some landing page feedback using Pactto. And so for anyone out there, whether you're a founder, agency owner, anything in between, hopefully this will like be a great opportunity for you to see if we agree on some things, different perspectives, and you might even learn something if we're really lucky. So I have a few landing pages here that I did a post on Twitter asking people or founders who might be interested in some feedback. And so I have my thread here. So I will just go ahead and pull up a landing page from it. So we got like 50 answers in a day or something. So that was really fun. So let's see here. I knew that we had somebody that looked really interesting here. Let's see here. All right, we had, where is it? Oh, perfect. Okay, so we have Flavius Biras, who is building Audiolizer Cloud. So we'll have a look right here. So again, for those of you that might be joining kind of from LinkedIn or even YouTube that might not have followed me on Twitter previously, I thought it could be a good idea to kind of do a very thorough, like kind of run through of how I approach giving feedback to landing pages. So the most important thing of any landing page is, of course, the entire hero section. And for those unfamiliar with the term, a hero section simply means what you can see on a landing page when you arrive on it without starting to scroll. And this is called the hero section. It can also be called above the fold. And so everything that you can see once you start scrolling, that's below the fold. And something worth mentioning as well is, of course, that landing pages look differently on different devices. And this is also something that is just very well thought out with Pactto, that if you want to give feedback on different formats, for instance, the tablet view or the mobile view, you can simply switch it this easily. And for those who might have tried doing that any other way by kind of dragging the window or even using like in the inspector mode so you can kind of see the code, meanwhile, like that's not a great experience when you just want to give feedback. So that's also something that's quite delightful when using Pactto. But so starting with the landing page, we have the hero, and then what can be, you can of course go however deep you want into this area, but what I try to focus on is to really focus 80% of my feedback on the hero section, and then mostly talk about the overall landing page structure rather than going into every single sentence, because it just takes too much time. And what's most important for us is to give quick feedback that is as helpful as possible, as high leverage as possible, especially so that we can get to as many landing pages as possible, but still make an impact there. And so when it comes to landing page hero sections, what I can say here is that if there's anything I've learned after giving feedback to over, at this point, we're well above 200 landing pages that I've reviewed this way, probably even more. It is that almost all founders and agency owners or whoever is behind these landing pages should stick to the basics and do them extremely well before you start to try to come up with your own structure. And the reason being is that there is this law in design called Jacob's law, which simply states that because because people in general spend almost all of their time using other people's apps or websites, whatever, they expect your website, your app, to work the same way. So what most founders tend to do is try to get kind of overly creative. And this is something that is kind of ingrained in us. I think that, you should always be innovative. You should always start from first principles. You should always do this, do that. But actually, as one might say, Tesla still built a car. They didn't build a completely new mode of transport in that sense. But so it is generally a really good idea to try to stick to the basics until you get extremely good at those, and then only try to innovate when you really, really need it. And so what I see way more often is that you don't really stick to the basics. You don't do them well enough before you kind of graduate to the next levels. Because of course, once you master any subject, you're free to break any rules whatsoever. But to get started, what we want out of almost any landing page out there, the absolute safest bet to do a fantastic job with a hero section is that we want to have a few things, and we'll see what's included here. We want to have a headline, and the headline is basically the biggest piece of text that will draw our eyes the most. That our eyes will be drawn to the most. We will also want a sub-headline that expands on the headline, because the headline usually can't be very long. And once we already have someone here, it's a really good opportunity to kind of explain a bit more for those that are interested and will read even a bit longer and a bit smaller text in most cases. From there, we want to make sure that we have a visual. Now, there are a few options here. So not if you're going to skip on something, what I see most people do, especially when they're absolutely starting out, is to skip the visual. And the opportunity then is to be just crystal clear with your language. But there is also this thing to be said about visuals, and that is that, of course, as humans, we kind of digest and understand images way, way, way faster than we understand text, because text has to be read, but you can simply glance at an image, and if you're doing a good job with a visual, you can get the point. So I think that they are still like incredibly valuable, but if you're absolutely just starting out, you're going to skip one thing and you're not a good designer, perhaps the visual is the one that can wait a little bit. But in general, I think it's just incredibly, incredibly important. So the headline, the subheadline, the visual, what we want then is some type of call to action. And this type of call to action is usually something like this that tells us to do something. It tells us to sign up for free or convert your first piece of audio, so to speak. Like, it's telling us to do something, and the landing page, the person that built the landing page want us to actually click here to take an action to go to the next step. But then also what is probably the most neglected, most often missed by founders building landing pages is the social proof. And it's really interesting because if you would go to anything like the iOS App Store, the Google Play Store, you go on Product Hunt, everything is really centered around different types of social proof. You have top apps where they kind of ranked against each other. And so because we as humans, we want to use what's already best. We don't want to do the work of having to try out a bunch of things. Hey, if a bunch of people use this number one fitness app, hey, it's probably pretty damn good compared to just having to go through 10 by ourselves. And then, of course, one of the most prominent things, if you do a search, for instance, is actually the ratings and reviews, to see that, if something is rated 4.9 stars out of 20,000 reviews, and then the next app has 0 ratings or 0 reviews, not that it has 1 star, it has no stars, it has never been reviewed. That's almost worse, because then you're like, what is this? Is this thing live? Does it work at all? Like, if it has 1 star, then you're at least like, oh, okay, maybe somebody just hated it. I'll have a look. But 0, like just no stars, no ratings, then we don't even know if it's live. And so that, I would say, is one of the most neglected things. And so right here, we can also see that there's probably somewhere here where that could fit. Or if this was made a bit smaller, then we could have something below here. But so for now, we don't have any social proof right up top. And so that's kind of the checklist that I go through when I look and start to evaluate any landing page. And so if we then actually dive into the content here, we'll take it step by step. And I usually start with the headline. So here it says, "Give your eyes a break, just listen." So this is a service called Audiolizer, just listen. So I'm guessing that this has something to do with turning text into audio. But I still don't really know. So I kind of glanced over here without being able to help it, and it said science. So right now, and this is probably how most people do it, like they glance at one thing, they glance at the other. So science, then I'm like, okay, so is this kind of like a study tool for people that have to consume just a lot of text, maybe for their studies? And so this can be a great alternative if you need to instead of reading like long scientific articles, stuff like that, maybe perfect for PhD students who have to kind of get a lot of that into their head. So far, not sure. Or is it for podcasts, or is it for something else? Still not sure. So we'll have to keep reading. Less text, more insight. Summarized papers to hear on the go. So when it comes to, I don't think it hits super hard. Less text, more insight. I don't really know necessarily how it gets us more insight by listening to it. But summarized papers to hear on the go. I mean, that is definitely, that again sounds very much like something for students. If we continue reading here, use AI to boost your knowledge, smart learning for busy lives. Stay informed, skip the reading, keep learning. So what I would say here is that there is a lot of information, but or rather a lot of text, so to speak, but lots of it just say the same thing again and again. So just listen. Less text, here on the go, we already knew that. So skip the reading, keep learning. Again, it's very, very similar. And so what I would probably focus way more on is actually to use a different type of framework. What you could call this that I described first, that's more of like a checklist of things that you want to make sure to include on your landing page hero. But when it comes to the actual content of it, what we want to get across, there is another framework that I love using. And that is something that I've heard kind of got popularized, at least through journalism, and that is to try to answer some very fundamental questions with your content, whether it's an article, whether it's a landing page, a PowerPoint, or slides, I suppose. Whatever you want to showcase, you want to answer these questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how, for whatever story you're trying to tell. And so in this case, it's about a product, and it's about something called Audiolizer. So if we go through this and kind of try to see what info do we have here, and what could help us understand it even better, what questions do we have left? Who is this for? When it comes to the actual content, like the actual text, the actual visuals, I would say that this is the most neglected part that somebody can miss when it comes to communicating who the product is for. So I'll give you a quick example here, for instance. So if we look here at a landing page that I built together with another founder, we can see here that it's a product called Whisperit, and the pitch is it's compliant AI dictation for law firms. And what you can see here immediately in the visual is kind of like the archetypal Swiss lawyer, since this is a firm or this is a tool that helps Swiss law firms, especially kind of starting out. And so here the pitch is as simple as it might be able to get. Like, it's just, what is this compliant AI dictation? Who is it for? It's for law firms. It's not for healthcare. It's not for students. It's for law firms. Cool. And what's interesting here is that a lot of kind of landing pages that I see try to use benefits-oriented, outcome-oriented, action-oriented language here. So, for instance, dictate twice as fast, so to speak, or get your transcriptions 10 times faster, stuff like that. And to me, what I'm not a huge fan of in that type of language is that very often, it can even be like, if you look at other pages, it can be stuff like double your revenue in half the time. And you're just like, what is this? I have no idea if this is for me. Like, you're trying to kind of clickbait. But the problem is that we are just so tired of clickbait when it comes to like understanding new things. So, for instance, the email equivalent of this is that I get probably 30 to 50 cold emails a day, and maybe half of them say quick question in the subject line. And like, that might kind of work when it's like, especially if it's from a friend or something. And maybe if no one else says it, then you're like, oh, this is just a quick question. But that level of clickbait, given that they're not telling me what they're interested in, like what's going on here, I just delete. I don't even read, because I know it's not for somebody I know. And I can see that it just says quick question. I don't have the energy to go through and look however good their kind of follow-up script is. And I would say the similar thing for landing pages. If it's just like double your revenue in half the time, something that sounds great, something that one obviously wants, you just don't read it. But if you just be upfront, don't clickbait, just say in the simplest possible terms, what is this? Compliant AI dictation for law firms. That doesn't sound super like compelling to many of us, but to law firms, as it turns out, they have such a struggle to manage all their dictation currently with secretaries that they use their manual dictaphone to then send over files to their secretaries that then use actual kind of special devices with pedals on the floor to get audio to kind of go back and forth while they transcribe. A lot of things go wrong. The best secretaries are super expensive. And the problem is that they've seen that a lot of AI tools out there can attack this problem, but it's not compliant. But here comes Whisperit, compliant AI dictation, and specifically for you as a law firm. So for you, you already know what the benefit of this is if you're a law firm. And so that is kind of my preferred format of a headline. So here I would say that it's a little bit too much of what almost like a slogan, just do it, just listen, stuff like this. It's not super helpful. What would be way more helpful is to just say something like, what would be the simplest possible language? When I try to come up with this kind of in the moment, I'm usually it's usually quite long, and one of course has to massage this a bit to make the language a bit more compact and stuff. But for instance, if it's just like, what is this product? If somebody at the bar, a loud bar, asks you, kind of listening with half an ear, oh yeah, so you're working on oleolyzer, what's that? And you just say, well, it's kind of like audio, paper to audio generator for students, something along these lines. Like, what is this? It's an audio, probably some type of audio generator for scientific papers. Even you might not even have to say that it's for students if you say it's for scientific papers. So something more along those lines. Audio generation for scientific papers. And so again, to the average person, that doesn't sound super compelling, but for a PhD student, they're just like, oh my God, finally, I can kind of listen while I'm out for a walk. I can kind of listen while I'm on the bus. They will just get it. And so, but what we currently have here is kind of like not really who it's for or what it is, but rather why you should use it. So it is an answer to one question. Why should you use this? Well, to give your eyes a break. You just have to listen. Cool. And just listen is actually kind of how it works when you think about it. So give your eyes a break. Why you want to use this? How does that work? Well, just listen. But so we still don't know, is this mainly for students? Is this mainly for teachers? Is this mainly for someone else? Not exactly sure. It could be, it says learning, so I guess it really is some type of student or PhD student. But I suppose it could be for anyone. But then, of course, like there could also be medical professionals that also need to take in a lot of new knowledge. And so this could be for them. But in general, the more opinionated you can be in telling like who it's for, the better. So we have who, what is this? So it seems to be an app, but I'm not 100% sure. Is this a Chrome extension or an iOS app or a Mac app? I don't know. So that can also be a really good thing to get across really fast. So some ways of doing this, you don't necessarily have to write Audiolizer is a Mac app that blah 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 blah, but rather if you have a download on iOS app, that's all I need to know. So again, you don't have to be necessarily explicit in explaining this. What's really important for me is that at the end of the day, if you ask me a question, what is this? Then I should be able to answer. It's a Chrome extension. It's a mobile app. But here, I honestly don't know. And so if I were to click somewhere, I would not be sure where I'm taken. And so this is also one of the fundamental rules of conversion optimization. Confusion is the conversion killer, and people don't want to click where they don't know what's going to happen to them. So here it's quite obvious that if I click play on AI article and it has this visual for some type of audio, I suspect this to play.
Network architectures.
And it did. But if it says convert for free or sign in with Google, I don't know if I will be taken to the iOS App Store, the Mac App Store, the Google Chrome extension store, whatever. So now I feel very compelled not to click on this, but we'll click and see. You need to be logged in to start converting pages. Okay, so this might even be a web app. Again, not clear. But so who, what, when, and where? So again, these are some of the questions that are most commonly communicated implicitly. So the question is simply, when and where should you use this product? So here I would say that this is actually quite clear to me. So what's not perfectly clear is, again, is this a web app or an actual app, like mobile app, or like, can I only, like, is this page only, if it is a web app, is it even optimized for my phone so I can really use it on the go? But I get the general point. I will use this when I don't feel like reading anymore, which is probably on the bus, at the gym, out for a walk. Again, none of this is explicit, but I can kind of get the point. And I think the founder of Audiolizer would say, yes, that's exactly right. That's when and where you should be using it. So I think that is pretty well answered. To give another example of somebody who does a fantastic job of communicating these questions, we can have a look at Clipwing, which is made by some friends of mine, Lera, Igor, the whole team at Paralect. And so what you can see here is that this is an app that lets you turn long form, create dozens of clips from your raw videos, publish more content, and grow your video show. And if you look at their visual, this is one of the best implicit answers to the questions when and where that I've seen. So you can see here, thanks to a logo, like a place and time can really be even a logo about the platform that you're talking about. So if you have stuff, if you have videos on YouTube, you want to turn those into clips for YouTube Shorts, you want to turn them into TikTok videos. That's kind of answers like, where will I use this service? Well, I will use this on YouTube. I will turn this so that I will like turn these clips and post them on TikTok. I will post them on YouTube Shorts. And when will I do it? Well, I can actually describe that story pretty simply. Well, first of all, I have to shoot stuff and produce it, and then it will be ready either as a raw video or essentially a finished YouTube video, the kind of long form, again, 40 minutes, you can see it down here. And then I will turn it into short videos and I will post them here. So when and where is really answers to kind of these story questions of like, they describe to me the process of how this will be used. And so if I were to answer kind of go even further here and say that, well, probably I will use this, after school, after university, I have to study more, but I'm too tired to read. So I will like pull this up. I will probably have these files on my phone. I will be able to add them here, and then I will listen to them on my way home or at the gym or something like that. My guess is that that's a fair assessment of when and where I should be using this. So then we have who, what, when, where, why. Give your eyes a break. How? You just have to listen. So pretty good there. But again, what we can see is that we are lacking social proof, and a great way to add some is to use a great tool called Senya. And they also happen to have a fantastic example of this, which makes sense since that's what they do. So they have this little equivalent information to what you would see on the iOS App Store if you kind of just scroll through and you see that, oh, this is rated 4.9 stars out of 20,000. So again, this kind of says that, oh, it's loved by 15,000 plus customers. Imagine if this was not there. Imagine if this was not there. You would probably just think that, oh, like, okay, this is a very beautiful website, but is it actually like, is it live? Is it big? Is it new? Is it the biggest current like solution out there? And you can see Senja has even gone above and beyond, of course, showcasing their own product, where they add kind of these social proof pop-ups down to the left. And of course, there are no like rules of exactly how you show social proof. The most important thing, very much like explaining, like somebody being able to explain the answers to this question: who, what, when, where, why, how, is that if somebody like could ask like, oh, who is this for? Is it live? How big is it? Like if you could just say, yeah, I mean, seems to have a lot of users, lots of people seem to love it. That's a great thing to know. And even better if instead of customers, you could say, for instance, oh, law firms, oh, students, something like that, to get even more specific. Other than that, I would say that we do have a challenge here as well with the call to action. So right here, if you just go by a normal landing page hero structure, what we would expect here is actually the main call to action that kind of sits under the headline and the subheadline, and perhaps you throw in some social proof there before or after, but then should be your main call to action to get started. It should kind of be centered in some sense. If you have the visual over here, then the call to action should kind of be centered here, so that it's very much focused. You often want it to have a very contrasting color to make sure that this is where you want to drive people. Like all this other stuff is all well and good, but if they don't take the action you need from them, you're losing out. And so what I would say is that this is kind of malplaced. So you would probably want something like this here, make it bigger, make it even higher contrast. And there are a few opportunities to improve that as well. So convert for free. It's not super clear. They're actually they're walking in the right direction, but they're not quite hitting it in my opinion. So what you can often see is that a service might say on their call to action, get started for free, or even just get started. And this is actually what I would say an opportunity to be more specific. So anytime you write copy or text, as one might say, that could essentially be there for any landing page, there's probably an opportunity to be more specific, to improve conversion rates and be more clear about what you're doing. So what you can say instead is something like convert your first paper. Even that might be more clear, or like listen to your article or something. Listen to an article, something gets started, like something like that. Convert for free sounds a bit weird. I think perhaps mainly to me because it's like convert is like pay, but this is about convert or like sign up. But this is about converting like text to audio. So I would try to figure out some way of explaining that in just a few words. And what's really nice about it, when you can kind of get there, that also helps somebody understand what the service is all about, what the first step will be. And for somebody visiting, they don't want to get started. They want an outcome. They want to turn their first paper into audio. Listen to your first paper. Something like that is what they actually want. And so they realize that to do that, I need to click here. And if I click here, as we said before, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to initiate a process to be able to listen to my first article. That's what I want. Okay, I trust you now enough to get started here. But if you could then also say, will the first step of that journey be to be taken to the Google Play Store, the Chrome Store, or the App Store, the Mac App Store? There are so many. That would be immensely helpful. But so I think we have quite a bit of feedback here. And when it comes to the visual itself, I would say it's actually pretty good in the sense of it gets the point across quite well. what I would say is that it doesn't feel super well designed. And so here's what I would say is what I think about as a design smell. And so if you see something where you're just like, this doesn't look like a designer did it, then you're kind of like, it might be a little bit too minimalistic in some sense. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to describe. So it's probably, for me at least, part of it is that it doesn't look like, or it's a little bit pixelated, I think. There's just something that is a little bit off, which makes me think that, okay, this is kind of like a very early stage product. You don't get the feeling that, oh, this is like really out there, people are really using it. If you compare that again with Senya, which is kind of top notch here, where there are just like super, like there's just a lot of attention to detail. You kind of just feel immediately that, whether the design would be absolute world class or not, you just feel safe. You're just like, okay, this is somebody who knows what they're doing. And then there is kind of this kind of middle ground where you're just like, okay, so I'm not like blown away or anything, but at least it feels like it's professional. It seems to be well put together, if I do say so myself. But again, I absolutely wouldn't say that it has the kind of like the absolute draw that Senya has. But that wasn't the point either at this point. But so kind of seeing if there might be an opportunity to upgrade that at least one step, I think could be a very good idea. And so if we just continue down and have a look here again more at the structure, we've spent actually 40 minutes on the hero section of one page. This is something that I need to work on myself. I need to stop yapping and kind of get through this stuff a little bit faster. But again, hopefully I'm trying to talk a bit about my thought process. I'm not just saying stuff and you're like, well, how does that make sense? But hopefully this is an opportunity for you to either learn or to challenge and say like, okay, so I definitely don't agree with your reasons. And again, if you feel that way, please feel free to post them in these points in the comments, because of course I do take on guests for these types of landing page feedback streams as well. And often we disagree. Often we come at it at completely different angles. And so, of course, my voice is only one here. But so if we continue to scroll down here, we can see kind of the general structure, very much like a storytelling structure, where if you go watch your favorite movies, like especially I was watching Oppenheimer just recently, and it turns out that, again, this is not a spoiler because it's the case with almost every Hollywood film. There are turning points at hour 1 and hour 2 on the minute. And so this is just like, this didn't just happen. This is something where Christopher Nolan, who is one of the best storytellers on the planet, he knows that he needs to follow a specific structure to find the right pacing, to make sure that he gets the most important points across. Even as an absolute master, he still follows some type of story structure. And where he doesn't, of course, being a master, he's free to break any rules he wants. But when you really go through it, you realize he's actually very much following the same type of structure that almost any movie ever does. And so if we look here more from a storytelling perspective, what I like to think of is that the hero is the trailer for, like if your landing page is a movie, your hero section is the trailer. So here you want to capture everything that's necessary to understand what the rest of the landing page and the product will be about. And so, of course, this is super, super difficult. But just like imagine creating a trailer for Lord of the Rings. And you're just like, these movies are funny. They are like deep. They're like heartbreaking. They're action packed. Like you just have everything. How do you create a trailer for something like that? It's so hard. And you can do it with different tones. It's unbelievably difficult. But that's really what you need to do, to get somebody to be like, okay, I like this trailer. This seems to be for me. Again, like a movie, seems to be something that I would like. Okay, I will continue. And from here, again, we need to look at the general story structure. And so right here, we have what is Audiolizer? Funny thing, the kind of question that we were asking about in the hero section. What is this? So this is actually going to be interesting. I think it's worth just a quick read. Audiolizer transform academic papers into engaging audio experiences. So it says academic papers. So again, that was my feeling, that it was probably for PhD students or even medical professionals, people that like need to consume a bunch of academic papers, or researchers, of course. Our AI narrates and interprets content. Elucidating, is that a word? Elucidating, I actually need to Google that. As a non-native English speaker, I always try to learn new things. Elucidating, it is a word. Make something clear. Holy shit. If you're gonna use a word for make something clear, that is the most complex word I've ever heard for making something clear. Elucidating key points, math and tables seamlessly. Ideal for researchers and students. We figured it out in the end, everyone. Audiolizer makes learning accessible and convenient wherever you are. Where should you use this? Wherever you are. Okay, cool. But my question is still, is this a web app? Is it a mobile app? What is this thing? And so I think that was actually not, like often you need to answer the most fundamental questions. What type of app is this? I have no idea. So still reading on, I can't really see anything. It looks kind of like a web app, and here, of course, again, the feeling that this could use a bit more love on the design side, kind of makes itself shown. So that kind of gives you another example of that. So how it works? So it's kind of nice that we kind of go through. Oh, and then where can you find us? It's very nice in the sense of like, so when you even if you follow kind of this framework, which actually seems to be kind of happening on the landing page itself, you don't necessarily have to, or I probably wouldn't even recommend using this language, because what it is, how it works, where can you find us? Oh, where can you find it? Okay, so I was just going to say this might be like, oh, on the Mac App Store, whatever. No, this was just kind of like social proof and where it's been featured. But so rather than writing something like this, that again could be written on any page in the world, again, not the worst thing, but then you're kind of wasting time if you just say what it is. Like if you would just say here, like the best app for converting academic papers to podcasts, I would be awesome. Like so you don't have to like literally explicitly ask the question yourself. You can just answer them, because I have these questions implicitly. I'm the one asking. I'm the visitor. Just tell me, because I'm already asking. So you don't have to spend the time in the copy and for me to read this again. Just tell me and follow the story structure so that I kind of know what I'm expecting to see. But so here we have what it is, how it works, and again doesn't tell us if like kind of where I'm going to listen to it, if it's an app or something like that. We have the pricing, and then we're done, and we don't have a regular footer, which also is kind of a design smell where you're like, this isn't quite standard. But so what I would say here is that I would recommend almost all landing pages to follow the following structure. And there are, I know, a few examples that are not represented here super clearly, that I think can be even more clearly represented, but we'll go through it step by step. So here's how this founder and I thought about it when we were developing the landing page for Whisperit. So the hero section, again, is the trailer for the rest of the landing page. When you start scrolling down, you should be met with what I like to call the hero testimonial. And that is the most impressive testimonial you have that explains the hero or the rest of it in the same way as a hero section would, but from the point of view of a customer. So I actually had have a landing page for giving landing page feedback to founders. And so here in the hero, I try to follow to practice what I preach. But then when you scroll down, you can see here that I have what I think of as the most impressive testimonial I have that explains the value of my service from the point of view of that customer. And so in this case, it's Jonna Velinde, who is a YC founder. She's the founder of Craftful, fantastic startup. And what she says is, Elias, so much great feedback here, excited to iterate. It really is that simple. I give feedback, you get to iterate. That's the whole service. That's what this is. And so if you can explain something like that in those kind of simple terms to someone, they will see, oh, for instance, Senya, if there is a testimonial here that kind of says, so here we have a few. So I would probably go for one because you're just really trying to get the point across rather than going too hard. Of course, Senya gives social proof, so it makes sense for them to just go all out. But here, so let's see if we have something that's kind of descriptive. I've had 20 testimonials in 2 days. That's quite descriptive. Something that is like, I would probably try to match this with I've seen impact on revenue conversion. So I mean, the point of using Senya is, of course, if I were to make a testimonial for Senya, it would be something along the lines of social proof is one of the most powerful ways to sell anything. I've neglected it for so long, but with Senya, it's so easy to collect and share, both on your landing page and on social media. Something like that. Could be shorter, could be more to the point, but I think you get it. If you would see that, and this was from a very impressive founder or a very impressive person, you'd be like, oh, I get it. I got it. You don't have to read much more. You're just like, yeah, sold. So if that was Tim Ferriss, for instance, oh my God. And he said that, and you can of course get even more specific. I used Senya on my landing page and it improved my conversions with 20%, which gave me 20,000 more newsletter signups in the first 3 weeks. Of course, there are ways to get more specific with your language, but the idea remains the same. So some type of hero testimonial, if you want to include if you're kind of a B2B product, this is a great place to include some logos as well. And then what almost all landing pages do is that they get right into the solution. And the problem with that is that this is actually an opportunity to expand on two things. Who this product is for and why you want to use it. What is the problem that you're solving? So since we're here building a solution that's compliant AI dictation for law firms, imagine that we just jump right in and say oh, here it is GDPR compliant. You can transcribe and edit faster, da-da-da. And you're just like, okay, yeah, cool, nice. Compare that to actually first starting with the problem. The problem, regardless of our solution or not, is that slow dictation is hurting your firm. We want the reader's stomach to drop and just oh, that's right, because we need to capture their attention. We need to make them realize that they have a problem. We have to remind them that they have a problem that they have, because otherwise you're just kind of stressing around. And this isn't to try to do something that's kind of below the belt or anything. This is actually doing them a service where we're telling them, you have this problem and we know, and we're here to help you. And of course, like one should make sure to be ethical, but slow dictation is hurting your firm, I think is kind of on the safe side here. But so and then when we expand on it, we say your lawyers, your secretaries, and your clients, they all suffer when you're waiting for transcriptions to be made, proofread, corrected, and approved. And then we have kind of like archetypal quotes from managing partners that say, I want my team to spend time on their highest value work for our clients. Lawyers are saying that avoiding the old school dictaphones, the back and forth with our secretaries, and reducing errors made in transcriptions would be a huge gain for us and our clients. This is how these different kind of stakeholders within a company think about dictation. And so we're just putting it out there to remind people this is actually a problem. Don't kid yourself. If you're using old school dictation, you might think it's fine, but there are actually costs related to it. And only then do we introduce our actual solution so that the reader knows that, oh, now we're going to map these problems and these customers, these stakeholders in the company to our solution. And so we then go through the actual solution. There are many ways to do it. Again, if you look at how the iOS App Store works, you can have a demo video, then some kind of images that kind of includes visuals plus features and benefits in most cases, and then kind of a description, just some text that you can add. And we follow this very much. So we have the demo video, we have how it works, which is essentially a description. We have features and benefits, explaining those with some type of visuals. And then we get into what can be like broadly called either a wall of love or just testimonials in general. And again, if you look at the iOS App Store, for instance, Product Hunt, what have you, at some point you will be met with testimonials and say like, oh, so this is what people think. There are so many ways to present this. Again, highly recommend checking out Senya if you want to have a look. But this is just something that can be a really good idea to remind people of. And this is actually even a place where I often go, again, to understand the product. Who is it for? Like, so here you can see founder, CEO, CTO, co-founder. Hey, that's me. Digital creator, and so on and so forth. This is, again, who it's for, and they're explaining why they want to use it. What you can do then is to, of course, include pricing. So Whisper in this case is an enterprise product where it's kind of common, like best practice to not show pricing up front, but you rather like book a demo, request a quote, something like that. But then you also include some frequently asked questions, which pretty much is here for a type of objection handling. And here is basically your opportunity to see somebody that is trying to check some box. They're just like, well, is it GDPR compliant? Have you thought about Justitia 4.0, which is something within law? Can I use a different AI or LLM provider? Can I host this locally? Yes. We thought of everything. Don't you worry about it. Again, makes you way more credible. They can kind of check that box and continue on. And then finishing off with a final call to action, like if you finally reach the end, like here is your last chance to actually sign up. So it can be a really good idea to include. And then again, just by best practice, you should definitely include a footer, just like to make sure you follow this standard. And so I realized that I also forgot to mention the name of this. This is what's called problem agitation. So that is something you want to do before you get into your solution in almost all cases. So with that, I'd say that we have gone through, again, the type of structure that I would recommend Audiolizer does, or Audiolizer should use as well. So instead of going straight into the solution, they could be like, let's talk about the problem of reading. You're probably spending 8 hours a day reading, either on your phone or through school or this or that. Oh, it turns out that new research has come and shown that listening is actually better than reading for a certain type of information. Whatever you have, I don't know, but like talk about the problem that you're solving and who you're solving it for. PhD students need to read on average 100 articles a quarter. That's over one a day, and they're usually 60 pages long. And like just tell us about the problem and who it's for, because then if you're a PhD student, you're like, God, you know me. Yes, that's exactly right. It's the worst, or something like that, or just like, I love it, but oh my God, if you can help me to do a better job, I would love that. Something like that. Then you get into the solution. Then your wall of love, your testimonials, pricing, FAQ, and footer. That would be my recommendation here. So with that, we've actually gone an hour. I saw that we have Stuart Mills here in the chat as well. So this was a while ago. So I don't know if you're still with us, Stuart. If so, please feel free to just say hi in the chat again. But I thought, why not go ahead and give you kind of a lightning round, Rose, since you're so kind of tuning in today. So we have oshorts.ai. So again, we will kind of just run through this, not talking as much about the reasoning behind, but rather just giving my feedback here. All right, so here we go. And it would be very interesting to hear again, like how well this maps to everyone's opinions that's tuning in right now, of course. But here's what I think. So straight off, starting off with the design smell. This doesn't look super well designed. So right off the bat, I'm a little bit kind of hesitant. It feels like it's thrown together quite fast. And a few reasons of why I think is that, you have a secondary color inside the call to action with the primary color. You have a lot, you're using the primary color a lot, so the call to action doesn't pop that much. There is so much blue here, like to highlight an entire sentence doesn't make a lot of sense. Having a YouTube video that I have to click first and it's kind of hiding the text that I'm supposed to read doesn't make a lot of sense. So again, it feels like this is very new, and it probably is. And again, as a founder myself, I would never say like, oh, therefore it's bad. I know that every landing page starts somewhere, and I'm sure that this is going to be amazing. But the quicker you can move through this stage and get to the next, the better. So that is my first impression. I am hesitant due to this kind of design smell. So next up, what I can say is that I also, within like, I don't know, half a second, create original shorts in one click. I immediately thought this is probably the 20th version of auto shorts that I've seen. So again, I don't actually know. I don't know if it's .com actually, or it's like autoshorts.ai. We'll see if I can pull auto shorts. Oh, it's probably AI actually. Okay, yeah, it's autoshorts.ai. So this is kind of like what do you call it? A work damage from like reviewing as many landing pages as I do. But like within half a second, I was just like, this is copy paste from AutoShorts. And apologies for you to you if you were first. I don't know if AutoShorts was first. Probably not, but it's the one that I've seen all over Twitter. So that is my first reaction, and you should be aware of that. That if you go kind of this similar, then there is a risk to it that people like me might have heard about the other thing and just like, this looks like almost a one-to-one ripoff. So to then continue reading, create original shorts in one click. Turn your ideas into engaging videos with voice narration, on-screen text, cool AI-made images, and awesome music. Overall, a very nice pitch. Could be worth reading the auto shorts and see how it maps. So here we have faceless videos on autopilot. Our powerful AI video creation platforms allows you to fully automate a faceless channel. So what I would say is that I would say the language here is a bit more catchy. It's a bit more benefits oriented. But what's interesting with auto shorts is really that it kind of tells a more complete story, if you will. I get to put these videos on autopilot. This is a video creation platform that allows me to automate a faceless channel. If that isn't super clear here. This tells a story of how I'm going to make a passive income, this doesn't. So this is more like, hey, make really cool videos. And only now do I see want to make faceless videos like these. Again, it tells the story of what you're creating, but not what the purpose is. You want to create a faceless channel and probably just sit back and make money. That's probably what you want to do. Again, when it comes to the call to action, get started, try auto shorts for free. Again, none of these I'm like a huge fan of. I would probably say create your first short. That makes sense, right? And then again, what's really good here that I didn't mention before is that you can also use this text, kind of text below the call to action button for objection handling. And it's usually try free, no credit card required. And that can be a great complement to if you say oh, create your first video, you might be well, is that free and stuff? And that's why you usually say, oh, get started for free, or didn't it say it here? Try auto shorts for free. And then it says no credit card required. I would prioritize saying create your first video, or launch your faceless channel, something like that. And then, you can use this, oh, it's free, no credit card required. You can just blah, 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 almost like an FAQ. Yes. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Just get in there. All right. And then I would say this is kind of confusing. I think it's quite important. Like this to me in its current form is an attempt of misleading to be social proof. It's a bunch of cool logos, but it's not super clear. Is this descriptive of where I can post these or where this has been seen before? I don't know. And the reason being, if it was just YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, then I would be oh, this is not customers of yours. This is where I'm gonna post it. But BuzzFeed, that sounds like they have written about you. HubSpot and Udemy, what do they have to do with this? Is this a plugin to HubSpot? Or but then if it's a plugin, why is BuzzFeed here? I don't think you're a BuzzFeed plugin. That doesn't make sense. So again, this feels like an attempt to introduce social proof that you don't kind of that's not quite there. So I think you should make super clear either post on these platforms, integrate seamlessly with, or trusted by Fortune 100 companies, because that's kind of what this is implying as soon as you use HubSpot. I don't know what that means otherwise. So, and then if we have a look at the rest of it here, why use it, how it works, our fans, okay, FAQ, get started. All right. So I would say that in general, let's see, unique videos each time. So something to be said about the demo here, that this is kind of clever to use some type of demo, how it works. Again, some visual aid here, pricing, not that much. So again, knowing that Auto Shorts is a very successful product. Again, when it comes to story structure, all this stuff, it doesn't mean that you have to. Just you can create a short film, just like a feature-length film. But if you want to if you want to kind of play it safe, get really good at the basics until you start going whichever direction you want, kind of having mastered the subject, I would say that the feedback that I gave earlier about these sections of like, include some type of problem agitation of how annoying or time consuming it is to create lots of videos, and like, the potential of like creating faceless channels. Oh, this is actually going super well. Here are some successful channels and they're making so much money and stuff like that. And I suppose that would be kind of the direction you could go in here. But so again, Stuart, I hope that was useful. And again, to anyone tuning in, I once again want to say a huge thank you to the whole Pactto team. It's just an absolute pleasure to be a part of the team, like helping to use the product every day, like seeing it get better. And again, for those tuning in that might not have been exposed to Pactto before, Pactto is what happens when you combine kind of a like when you make a baby out of Loom, Figma, and ChatGPT, in the sense that you basically can record video feedback given a website. You can do it for videos, creative assets, images, even 3D models. You get great markup tools in many ways, in the sense of like using Figma, where you have every which tool to leave comments and just like get your point across in the best possible way. And at the end, when you want to send it over, you can actually prompt your video transcript to generate action points. You can generate a blog post, you can generate a tweet from it, so that you can actually just send it over and be as useful as possible, either to your audience or to the person that you're giving feedback. Pactto has a tier that's completely free to use. There you can record over 10 minutes long Pactos that are entirely free to use, so you can get a feel for the product. There's also something very clever if you're working in a bigger team, where it's local first. So if you don't want everything to be uploaded to the cloud, then Pactto is a fantastic solution, again, in comparison to Loom, which simply uploads everything you send. And so with that, I want to say thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. Please feel free to just send a wave if you're still watching in the comments. We're going to keep doing this every week, every Tuesday. And I will be continuing to invite great guests. When we've been doing these on Twitter previously, I have, for instance, had the fantastic Alex from Bake Design joining me, who is just one of the best designers in the Twitter community and beyond. So definitely, stay tuned for more great feedback videos. It won't only be for landing pages. We will try to get creatives from all different walks of life to give feedback on what they know the best. And yeah, I think we're going to have a blast. But until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you are, and catch you in the next one. Until then, take care.